I was trying to think of a way that we could illustrate the differences, the challenges that customers and all of us, frankly, are having with regards to our network, because there's a couple of trends that affect all of us. We've got our data, our applications, and we've got our users. Now, normally when these things are right next to each other, no problem whatsoever, right? We can get to everything quickly. We've got security, performance, all of that stuff is handled, no issues whatsoever. But our networks aren't built that way right now. What's happening is because it makes more sense, right? We're moving our data and our applications in the data center. We're centralizing those things and we keep a better eye on it. Meanwhile, our users are moving around more than ever before. And they're doing that because, well, all of them have a smartphone, and let's see here, probably we got a laptop and an iPad. Here's 3 devices that just simply, ones that I carry, and I'm moving around all the time. Meanwhile, I'm further away from the centralized data than ever before. And so this huge area right in here, this wide open area is where all the problems begin to occur. It's what I like to call the app gap, okay? It's this chaos in the midst of this big area that we need to address. But the nice thing is that the one common element, that foundational thing that we can use to address all of this, it's the network. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, which is how can we use the network to bridge the application experience and begin to solve those problems for you today. All right? Well, my name is Rob Boyd. You're watching BizTech. We'll sit down with Cisco experts Rocky Mistry as well as Noam Sirkin. We'll get them to clarify exactly what is possible here. We'll also talk to a few different customers, each of which have unique and interesting networking challenges, like Quintile sharing their highs and lows with WAN optimization, and HDR who'll dive into their experience monitoring applications for a global network. And then one of my favorite customer perspectives, Cisco IT. We get to see what they're doing with this application experience and how they do it. It's all this and more as we bridge the app gap on the application experience. You're watching BizTech, where technology innovation meets business opportunity. All right, well, Rocky Mistry is an industry expert for Cisco's integrated services routers. I always have to get the ISR G2, the popular line. And Noam Sirkin is a optimization engineer that's been featured on TechWise TV quite a few times. Guys, welcome.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks.
So I want to get to the bottom of this app gap thing that I've kind of set up at the top. So we'll start with you, Rocky. Help me understand that.
What is the app gap? Well, we know most of our customers are in the process of centralizing their applications to the data center or moving them out to the cloud. This is going to create enormous efficiencies, but it's also going to create some problems. From a networking side, they're going to have performance issues. The distance is going to kill performance, and they need to overcome that in one way or another. They're going to have reliability issues. What's going to happen if you lose connection? You still need those workers productive. How are you going to solve that? What about operational issues about seeing what's there, measuring how the applications are performing, especially as you move beyond your own perimeter, managing that. And then speaking of going beyond your own perimeter, you're going to have new security issues. So all of these issues have to be addressed if you're going to move this direction. And we know most customers are going there. So how do we solve that?
Well, so bridging this distance that we kind of speak of in there, Noam, is that just simply a bandwidth type of thing we can throw at it?
No, it's not just a bandwidth. You can't solve all problems with bandwidth. You can't solve the distance between data center and branch office just by making the pipe bigger. You haven't solved the latency associated. Okay? But aside of that, because of this distributed infrastructure of workers around the world and a centralized data center with the applications and our servers, how do you differentiate between what is important for the business and what isn't important for the business, right? Because users, as we know, spend time on their computers not just working.
What?
They go on Facebook, they look at YouTube.
I don't know what he's doing.
They
I know all we do is work. I don't know what you're talking about, no.
Sure. Anyways, how do you differentiate between all these different applications that we use and they go all on the same port 80, because it all comes over HTTP? How do you differentiate and apply different quality of service and the ability to choose the right path on how I go from here to there and then decide should I optimize it or not? Well, with the ISR AX, you get that option to bundle everything together so you get the visibility and control through NBAR 2, QoS, and PFR, as well as the ability to decide should I optimize with WAS or not. And everything, including security, is now bolted into this one platform.
Okay, now I like a guest who raises a question and then answers it himself as well. But Cisco's been talking about these kind of things for a long time. I mean, yes, the problems are coming to a head now. I would agree that the complexity has gotten to a point that people are definitely addressing these things on a very regular basis. But aren't customers kind of solving these issues with our gear already, and in some cases maybe competitive gear? What are we announcing here with the AX?
So what we're announcing is actually how we're building this whole solution and leveraging the router, the ISR G2, as a platform for not only consolidating these network services, which we've done for years, but now bringing in these application services as well on this platform. You can put out an appliance for WAN optimization. You can put out probes. You can do all sorts of things, but try and do that over thousands of branches. It's painful.
That's what customers have been trying to do,
It's expensive.
It's impossible to manage,
Yeah.
right? You need a consolidated solution, and that's what AX delivers. And we deliver it in a consolidated form factor that's scalable, manageable, and affordable.
So we've bundled. Is that all we're doing here?
It's a bundle. It's a bundle based
Tell
on
me
the
it's more
ISR.
than just a bundle.
Well,
I like the way you answer that because you're very positive, but
It is a bundle based on the ISR G2 that everybody knows, loves, and trusts, right? It does your layer 2, layer 3
okay.
packet moving, and then it
a good
takes
router.
it to the next level, which is a layer 4, layer 7 application aware, application smart device that is able to look at the flows of traffic, provide the visibility into what these flows are, then have the ability to decide through QoS and PFR, where do I put these different flows in my queuing, and how do I choose the right path so my users get the best performance? Because at the end of the day, with this app gap, user productivity is expected no matter what.
Yeah. And I want to add, it's much more than a bundle. This is a system, right? This is a system built from the ground up to provide all these services from layers 2 through 7 for our customers. And we're doing it a better way by having it all on one platform so that they can actually scale it. So, you know, that's a very important element for IT to be able to roll this out. It has to be scalable. ISR-AX offers that.
Okay, so now I think I'm starting to get a glimpse of this, because what we're really saying is that normally what you're saying, optimization and the ability to monitor and then control applications, these are things everybody has to do. But what they've been doing is they've got very expensive appliances that they're trying to choose which one to add on to that can fit in this particular budget cycle, at which locations are more important than others and things of this. And you're saying
If they've been doing it right. I mean, so as I said, everybody expects their users to be productive. However, there is that app gap. How do I solve it? Well, let's put WAN optimization. Great. It's expensive. Oh, well, how do I justify it? Can I justify it for a 5-user branch? Or do I do what most customers have been doing for the last 10 years is look at their problems, stack them, rank them, and then say, okay, I'm going to take care right now because of budget constraints, my 10 or 15% problematic sites. What about the rest of it?
Yeah. And it's really important for people to realize what we've done here is we've made the system and we've made it affordable. Our ISR-AXs are about 35% less expensive than if you were to buy a competitive WAN optimization solution. So for our customers, what that means is you can go justify to your CFO on one service and you get the rest without any additional costs. You get advanced routing, you get security, you get visibility and control all along with that, and you can turn it on when you need it.
Okay, so let me ask the engineer. So you give me at a lower price point, you're cramming all this stuff into an ISR. I got to think it's a performance challenge, and the reason why it's cheaper is because I'm not able to scale this kind of thing as well.
Well, you may not be able to scale on a single platform, but let's think about what the ISR platform provides me. It provides me a
pretty
small
big family. Yeah.
It provides me a small 800, right? An 819 for a machine-to-machine communications, all the way to a 3945. So based on my scalability, based on my needs, my bandwidth, my user community, I can put the right device at the right spot at the right price.
And we're making the licensing more flexible now too. I understand.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So the idea then is that we can go in. We don't have to also make a hard and fast decision that may be a very old decision very quickly with a site that we think needs this type of service and this size box and the kind of the previous mindset. You know what classically happens? You give users a better experience, and suddenly they start using services more.
Right.
That's right.
You know, more abundantly, and suddenly you're like, oh wait, we were basing it on previous usage patterns. Well,
That's right.
Boy, you make stuff easy to use.
So
People tend to go
with
through
this new licensing model, right, you can start small, and that license just grows up to the capacity of the device that you bought. You don't have to do anything Okay.
Nice.
In the past, if I bought an SRE with a small license and I wanted to grow it to a medium license, I had to do something.
Yeah, it'd be a big
Today,
change,
I'm
big
just
purchase.
buying the capacity of the system. I may start small, and as the usage grows, it just grows up to the capacity, and that's it. It's simple, it's easy, no need to monitor licensing or add anything to the machine.
Right.
Yeah, that's a job in and of itself in the past. So let me ask you then, is there anything this leads up to? Can we expect more things like this, or is that fair to ask yet?
Absolutely. We have a pretty robust roadmap around looking at how we deliver application experience to our customers. And it starts at the branch. We know we need these essentials at the branch, but we're going to be extending this out to the campus and data center as well as cloud. We're going to introduce an ASR 1000 AX and our cloud services router 1000V
Wow.
AX.
So we're hitting some very key platforms
Right.
there.
So we want to develop that across our portfolio for enterprise routing, and there's even more to come, but that you'll have to stay
That's
tuned.
amazing. Oh, well, I'm sure I will. I know I will. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Rocky.
Thank
No,
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. So it's probably obvious now that most of us are creating our own integrated services, right? We're bolting on applications in this attempt to solve these problems through adding things on the outside. But what we're doing, obviously, is increasing the complexity. Well, now we can see that routing has been fundamentally redesigned to address this problem really more foundationally. But that's just scratching the surface. So I thought it'd be good if we could talk to a customer and start to get some other unique perspectives. I met Brian Kachel at Cisco Live a few years back. He's the Director for Global Network Services at Quintiles, the largest provider of biopharmaceutical development and commercial outsourcing services. And with a network of more than 27,000 employees in approximately 100 countries, Quintiles has helped develop or commercialize all of the top 50 best-selling drugs on the market. Well, the network is obviously a key backbone for Quintile's success, and Brian has learned a few things he was willing to share with us all the way from North Carolina. All right, Brian, so welcome.
Hey there, Rob. How you doing?
Doing very well, and so glad to have you back with us. Looking forward to seeing you again at Cisco Live. But hey, I wanted to ask you a few questions specifically about your network situation, and then make sure that we understand exactly what you're responsible for. So anywhere you want to go with that.
Sure. I'm the Director of Global Network Services for Quintiles. And the network, it's grown pretty large over the years. I've been with Quintiles for 16 years and currently managing now a network of just over 100 locations across 62 countries with a pretty centralized and standard approach. We do the hub and spoke model, 2 primary data centers with a few smaller ones in the Asia-Pac region. And we try to standardize on our products and do the cookie cutter approach so that we are more effective at managing what we have spread across the globe.
So you guys obviously have a dynamic situation. You've been through a lot of growth over time and such. How would you characterize some of the challenges that you've been addressing as you've been part of kind of building and deciding how to design and lay out that type of network?
You know, a lot of times we find ourselves in a position of being reactive. While we're all technologists and we like to look at architecting designs that will scale as we grow, there are sometimes just requirements that come up from the users or new business or something is just, you know, it's unacceptable and we've got to fix it now. So related to WAS, this is how we came to the product where we had just a bunch of sites that were trying to download very large documents and larger than what you would normally expect going 6, 7, 8 years ago now. And we needed to somehow make that faster. And of course, one option was call the telcos in 62 countries and say, give me 5 times the bandwidth. And of course, get a bill that's going to be 100 times larger than what we're comfortable paying, but also the time it would take to deliver that, just not acceptable. So we went to Cisco and we said, listen, guys, we need to improve what we're doing here. So here's the type of traffic we're delivering. Can we make it faster somehow? And at that time, Cisco said, we've got a WAN acceleration product. Why don't we try it out? And we did some piloting. It was really early, buggy back in the day using WCCP. We rolled it out to initially 50 or 60 sites.
I'm curious about what applications in particular have given you either more challenges, what you wanted to address first, or did you go for across-the-board type improvements, or was that kind of focused on what you wanted to start working on, and how's that changed?
Typical Cisco IT answer, it depends, right? So we had a specific target back 7, 8 years ago, and it was for CIFS and file management, document management. And of course, we didn't know enough about the product to understand that we could select different hierarchies. So we just turned on all of WAS and we started recognizing benefits of accelerating HTTP, print traffic, DNS traffic, all types of things that fell within the TCP stack. So after a while, it sort of came to be expected that we could offer improved WAN service by pushing this traffic through the WAS accelerators. More recently, though, we started a lot of desktop virtualization, pushing out virtual desktops, and again ran into a challenge where we found that the WAS boxes some time ago were not compatible with the TCP mechanisms that Citrix were using. So we ran into a challenge where we had, at this point, 100 sites deployed with WAS. We're accelerating all this traffic. It's come to be expected. The performance is expected, but we couldn't accelerate our VDI Citrix traffic. So we started working with Cisco and Citrix to say, hey, guys, we've partnered with you. We need some help here. And through one of the software releases came out the Citrix Application Optimizer, which has now given us the ability to optimize and accelerate that Citrix traffic. Again, just keeping things with a standards-based approach where we assume we can accelerate all traffic. So, it wouldn't surprise me if something comes out 6 months from now, some new technology that we're trying to deploy, and maybe there'll be an incompatibility. And we'll be in that same position. So while we try to architect and plan for the future, the requirements and the demands of the business are just occurring at a pace faster than at times we can keep up with. So we're constantly in that mode of, all right, what's the product set that's available? Can we optimize? Can we accelerate? Can we enhance it? Our objective as the network owners is to ensure that we're offering the best performance that's available.
Has that changed how you operate? Because obviously you were doing WAN optimization before you started doing VDI, if I understand correctly. And as you started doing VDI, which my assumption, of course, is you're looking at centralization and control for a certain set of users in terms of how you're deploying desktops. Was VDI doable without some type of optimization, when we start looking at that business case? Or was it just simply better with optimization, if I may be assumptive on that?
As with anything, VDI started out as a pilot. So we start with a test group of IT users that sit practically inside the data center. So sub 10 millisecond latency with gigabit links. And of course, the experience is flawless. It operates and feels just like a desktop. And then we come up with our first user case, the use case scenario of 500 to 1,000 users. And they're also close to the data center, and we start learning this experience is good. We're able to economize. We're able to deploy desktops and provide the secure data from our data center to somebody through a virtual window on whatever device they have. And then, of course, that use case sounds wonderful. So we say, well, let's start deploying this to more sites. The next use case of 2,000 users goes out there. But these folks happen to be further away across a slower WAN link. Now we're adding latency. And what we start to hear is the user experience isn't as optimal. And we're sit there saying as technologists, well, why is that? These first users here, close to the data center, everything works fine. It must be that latency thing. So back to how do we improve the service? WAN acceleration. Okay, let's get this going, only to find out encryption, compression, not fully compatible unless you tick all the boxes. So, there's a bit of that learning curve as you grow. And again, we grow at a rapid pace. So we're deploying these things as fast as we can. We're trying to keep up with the demand. And, we figure these things out as we go along. But now, as I say, it seems everybody's caught up. Citrix, Cisco are all beating to the same drum, and we're able to optimize the traffic as we have the VDI environment deployed.
Has optimization been something that users notice when it's there and when it's not? Is it that dramatic?
Without a doubt. We have sites where we haven't either put a version 5.1 code on a WAS box, and the experience when people travel from site to site, that they recognize absolutely something's wrong. It's slow. Open up a trouble ticket because this isn't how it felt at the other location. And, just looking at WAN monitor graphs, simple things like MRTG, you can see when it's off, your utilization is here. And when you turn it on, it's down here. So it is a noticeable improvement when you get to accelerate and optimize this stuff as it's intended.
Does that change your options in terms of how you actually because my assumption is you probably have somewhat of a cookie cutter approach in deployment, in terms of potentially different size sites. I'm not sure, but obviously there's probably a starting point, and some of that includes local loop and what your WAN's going to look like, at least initially. Yeah. Has any of this changed over time or looking to change?
It gives us flexibility because if we followed the traditional standard approach, I think design guides back in the day said 64K is a typical or a reasonable amount of bandwidth to expect from a single Citrix session. So if you take a site with 100 people, you say, okay, well, that's 6.5 megs. We don't expect 100% concurrency, so you downgrade that a little bit to economize. And, what we learn in real life is that a single Citrix session could burst up to several megs if they're watching video. So having a WAN accelerator in there really gives you that buffer, the flexibility to accommodate for the bursts, to give back bandwidth when it's not being used, and offer any type of performance improvements that you may get. It's not a 100% perfect solution. I can't deploy a 100-user site on a single T1, but it does give me flexibility. If my WAN capacity isn't large enough, it does offer some give back there where I can get by and keep the business running.
I'm curious, do you have recommendations or anything that you would share to other customers, people like yourself that are managing a network and looking at doing technologies such as these? What do you recommend? And we'll make that our final question.
It's probably no secret across the globe. Everybody's being very conscious about what they spend and where they invest and their capital dollars available to them. So what I like about the WAS product suite now is that you can right-size things. Again, going back years ago in the early adoption days, you really only had one or two models you can choose from. They were all chassis-based. You bought a 512 or you bought a big 7926. I think was the model number. And over the years, there have been more, but now you've got a full range between SREs, AX, as you just mentioned, smaller size chassis up to large mega data center size boxes. We like to right size the equipment. So I don't want to buy a chassis that's going to lay 80% idle if I don't have to. So if I've got a site with 20 people, I know that there's a product somewhere that has a smaller price tag attached to it that's right sized. It's fit for purpose. So keeping fit for purpose in mind is probably some good advice when you're building out your network. Don't build too big. Obviously, don't build too small. Build with some scalability in mind and right size the network.
Words of wisdom. Brian, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Talking to customers can be very instructive on a number of different levels. But as I mentioned earlier, I thought it would be fun to talk to Cisco about Cisco. Because, of course, we're also a very big customer. We eat our own cooking. But you know what? We don't do it in always the way that I would have thought we did, right? We don't use everything we make, and we don't always get first in line when it comes to technical support. But I called on a few friends here in Building 12 to see exactly how that works and maybe what they're doing to solve this app gap challenge.
So I just was drawing out a typical topology here for how the Cisco network works within a large-scale branch office that we have. Moving on, we have sort of our typical campus and WAN, our edge of our network here, that we're using the ASR 1006 platform, connected to the Wave appliances to do WAS. This would be on our head-end side. Our then head-end side connects to both the public internet, that we have connections going to the public internet to our branch locations, and then also via private WAN connections, L2 VPN connections, and or MPLS connections. And then moving on, we connect those to a pair of ISRG2s at our actual branch location. Those ISRG2s connect to the 3750 switches here, and then those 3750 switches connect to both our WAS appliances, our Wave 694s, and then up to our access points, our remote users, telepresence endpoints, and so forth. This is a typical topology that's worked fairly well for the last 3 or 4 years here at Cisco, but we've had some, we'll say, opportunities and so forth of how we could improve it. And we've been leveraging the ISR AX platform now to do those. 3 things that we've delivered improvements on. First is before we've had the WAS appliances sitting off the 3750Xs, we've redirected that traffic via WCCP to those appliances in that regard. What we wanted to do was integrate that technology natively into the ISRG2, so we didn't need to set up another appliance, set up all the configuration and so forth, so we could do it directly as part of a single box solution. So we've upgraded the ISRG2s to the ISR AX platform. We've eliminated the Wave 694s, eliminated the redirects, put the WAS traffic directly in this box itself. We clearly have a lot of opportunity to improve, to accelerate our traffic and so forth that we've done via doing this directly. The second thing we've looked at is how do we get better security and performance for our internet-facing traffic. Back 5 or 6 years ago, we only had a small percentage of our traffic go straight to the internet. What we've seen now is 25% of our branch office traffic that originates from this ISR AX goes to the public internet, right? Today we have that all going back to our head-end network, right? But we want to go, if it's going straight to the internet, let's go straight to the internet because they're using a business-critical application that may be SaaS-based and so forth. So we've leveraged the cloud connectors on the WAS, right? That connects back, not on the WAS, but on the ISR AX. Those cloud connectors go to the public internet, go straight to the internet, leverage the ScanSafe or Cisco Cloud Security so we can make sure we don't have malware and so forth hitting our environment, but we can hit the internet directly. The next is we have a ton of video at Cisco. I think everyone knows Cisco loves video. I'm trying to support a network that has video growing and growing and growing and growing. And the types of video we have is, WebEx video, telepresence video, and so forth. But we also have intermixed on that YouTube video, FaceTime, Skype, and so forth. So we wanted to have actual visibility of what that traffic is. Before we knew it was just port 80, we didn't necessarily know if it was business critical, non-business critical, but we wanted to know that. So we used the Cisco functionality called Application Visibility and Control. It's actually NBAR v2. NBAR v2 classifies the applications and knows that level of detail of those applications. We then redirect that to the Cisco Prime product. The Cisco Prime product is allowing us to visualize that actual applications, right? So we know is that WebEx video traffic that's maybe a super critical meeting that we need to ensure we deliver a good experience for those? Or is it YouTube that maybe if it doesn't have a great experience, that's absolutely acceptable and we can differentiate that type of traffic? So that's been critical in our environment.
Okay, good. So that's what things look like from a high level, if you will, on the whiteboard. But what does it look like on the production network?
We have our ISR AX routers exporting AVC data. So we thought we'd look at some live data here to see what's going on in this building at this time right now. And one of the cool things about the Cisco Prime infrastructure, it allows us to have a nice GUI front end to look at the various things that are going on with the AVC data. So right here, we can see right now it's pretty much peak. This is the past 24 hours. So you can see we're peaking right now about our data usage. As we go down 6 p.m., 8 p.m., it goes down, and then back in the morning at 7, 8 a.m., it picks back up. The advantage of having this visibility is if someone decides to put up a rogue BitTorrent server or something on our network, we would be able to go back and look and see, the trending of, this wasn't there last week, this wasn't there yesterday, something's happening right now. So this performance data really is beneficial to us. The other big benefit with AVC is that it allows us to break out the traffic. Before, it all used to be just port 80, FTP, all these, everything was kind of lumped together, and we didn't have any visibility to see, is this WebEx video, is this YouTube video, Netflix video, that type of thing. So as you can see here, we're looking at our top applications on our network. Still a bulk of our traffic is HTTP, but the next top is WebEx meeting, and we also have some Exchange traffic. As you can see, there's the YouTube traffic, iTunes traffic on here, and we even got Facebook traffic on our network. So this gives a network engineer the ability, when someone calls to, and says, hey, the network's slow, we have the visibility that we can go in and look and see what's going on in our network in real time. So say if in this building we had a critical meeting, John Chambers comes over and they're holding some meeting down on our first floor, and we wanted to make sure that the YouTube traffic or the Netflix traffic didn't interfere with that. We could go out, use this application visibility, look in here and see what type of video traffic is going through our network. If there was something that we deemed that was a critical meeting, we could take application visibility, we could influence our policies and our QoS policy to deprioritize YouTube, drop the YouTube traffic, and make sure that, if the WebEx meeting or whatever traffic or telepresence traffic we're sending across our network, we can make sure that that gets high priority and we have a successful meeting at our campus here.
Application Visibility and Control, or AVC. This is deep packet network inspection, the deepest level from the network perspective, right? It's literally the ability to identify over 1,000 applications, sub-applications. This is the type of things that we need to do today. But getting the experience from a customer perspective, I think, is important here as well. So we reached out to a couple of network engineering friends from HDR. Jim Graves and Jeremy Bresley take care of the network for HDR, which is a global engineering and architectural firm based in Omaha, Nebraska. Well, they have over 8,000 professionals across more than 185 locations. Well, these guys work on some really big multi-year projects. Things like the Hoover Dam bypass that combined resources from 17 offices for over 5 years. Well, what this tells me is that their network needs have got to be interesting. So we asked them. Well, Jim, Jeremy, guys, hey, thank you so much for taking the time.
Glad to be here.
Fantastic. Hey, guys, so tell me, Obviously, with what your firm does and what you guys are responsible for, it seems very dynamic. It seems like there's a lot going on. And I got to imagine that translates into unique networking challenges. But Jim, I'll ask you. So how would you characterize your network as it stands now?
As of right now, it's a large WAN and offices all over the world, upwards of 200, 220. Most of those offices are all actual HDR offices. Some of the offices are actually more of a joint operation, and each one of these offices works pretty much independently and has monster files that needs to be transferred around the network at all times.
So am I true in my assumption that, with the nature of being an architecture and engineering firm and being very project-based for a lot of things, you have some highly intelligent people exchanging some very large files, but you've also got temporary locations, things that have to go up quickly and then suddenly don't have to be there at other times. Jeremy, does that type of thing present additional complications for how you would do a network, say, versus someone who just sets it up and forgets about it?
We have a lot of dynamic sites that are there for months or years at a time, and then we have to tear them down. They either move the equipment to another location or new equipment comes up, constantly reconfiguring things to add new projects.
So how does that translate into, we're talking a lot today, of course, about the ISR AX, and we're talking, we've already talked a lot about WAN optimization and the benefits and the value and the need for things of this nature. But talk to me about your use around network monitoring and the ability to see and control traffic. Is that something that makes a difference in terms of how you operate in this situation?
For us, it's critical to know who the top talkers are, who's using the bandwidth. When we get complaints of network slowness, being able to quickly isolate what's causing the problems and be able to remedy the situation for our users as quickly as possible.
Okay, specifically as we tape this, we're in the middle of March Madness. Is that type of thing something you seek to have more visibility on and you would actually take action on with your user base?
We don't tend to block a lot of the streaming media and stuff like that. For us, it's more getting visibility into the actual business applications. We have users who transfer multi-gigabyte files back and forth between offices, and in some cases between 10, 15, 20 offices that are work sharing on a big project. So for us, it's getting the visibility into some of our business applications, and NBAR 2 really gives us a lot more fine-grained control over those specific applications.
When you say fine-grained, then it's about the fact that we can't depend on things at a port level to be able to make those determinations, but that's not an issue anymore?
Exactly. With NBAR 2, it's not just port 80 traffic. We know that it's Citrix coming in on that port, or it's ProjectWise, or any of our other apps that tend to use that port because it's easy to get through firewalls and stuff like that. So
you were telling me a story a little bit earlier about the fact that some applications that were designed in your own group sometimes don't use the network as intelligently as they should, and that causes a perception of network latency issues and things of this nature. Restate that for me and tell me, how have you solved that?
The application that we were discussing is, what the architects use, and since it's all work share, the data, which is going to be very large, is going to need to be shifted between 30, 40 sites at a time. And part of that, to shift the data, they have to, you have to have revision control, have to be able to know what's being over there, who made the last edit. And they made the control piece of that and the authentication piece all under the same bucket or under the same packet as data. And unfortunately, that's not a good idea at all. So with application visibility control, you can actually fingerprint that, and even though it's in the same port number, I can actually come back and see that it's really a control packet instead of one big block of data. And then I can give that prioritization so that it doesn't keep freezing up their applications and dropping everybody.
So if I understand, then what you're saying is you actually do have the ability to take inherent flaws in the applications and address them on your end without having to go back and touch the applications or have the users change practices. It sounds like you're not really beating your users up heavily when they do things that aren't necessarily condoned. You're just quietly monitoring, analyzing what's happening, and then adjusting as needed to make sure that the critical things are getting through as needed. Fair?
I don't know about quietly, but yeah, we actually do try to fix their problems that were created by their programming side.
Isn't that funny?
When we can.
So is this type of visibility, you think, necessary for most networks today, or is that unique strictly for your situation?
I think it's absolutely critical for most networks to have an idea what's going on, especially with the streaming media, peer-to-peer, viruses, all that kind of stuff can just rob your bandwidth and you don't even know about it unless you start digging in and looking for it. With NBAR 2 AVC, it gives you a good idea of what that traffic is.
So it changes your ability from a deployment perspective as well as an ongoing management perspective. Any words of advice for any of your peers that are looking to make that type of decision, yes or no, about what they should do and maybe how they get started in something like that?
Well, I think they should, take advantage of everything that they can that comes with the devices. Obviously, there is an iOS pack you have to purchase for it, but it's well worth it. And all of our systems have it. The visibility to be able to get inside of those programs are real important. We've been hoping NBAR could do it for a long time, and then, NBAR 2 actually is taking care of that for us with the other added-on pieces, so it's worth it.
Been a good protocol. Absolutely. Well, Jeremy, Jim, both of you, I certainly appreciate your time. We'll look to catch you on the next one.
Thank you very much.
Bridging the app gap. Hopefully we've given you some new perspectives on ways in which we can solve these particular challenges. A couple of things jumped out at me here. First of all, priced for scale, right? The ISR AX, it's ready for wide-scale adoption, but also it's easy to deploy. It's a single-box solution with a simplified licensing model. Cisco has taken this layer 4 through 7 approach, combined it with routing and said, let's get rid of the complexity and let's recognize that these things are foundational to our network. Don't make this thing too complex. That's not the right way to go about doing things. Hey, for more information, be sure and check out the URL below. My name is Rob Boyd. Thank you for watching BizTech.